On November 18, 1978 in Guyana, over 900 people were found dead, and all the blame was placed on one cult. This cult was the reason so many people lost their lives. What happened on that day? This question will be answered in today's video, so stay with me till the end. Before that fateful day, everyone who had contact with the cult in the 1950s and 60s celebrated Jim Jones for his charitable work. For this reason, he garnered many followers, especially from Black American communities. In 1956 in Indiana, he bought a church and named it People's Temple. All of his followers would come to this church and listen to his teachings. Most of his teachings were to help those in need and to motivate those who had lost hope in their lives. Even though he preached like this, he could not raise a significant amount of money over time. Jim learned about himself and his high skill of public speaking. If he held microphone and got up on stage, he knew how much he could influence people. One day he suddenly thought he should raise money, but not in the traditional ways. He developed his own way and decided to pursue it. The first thing that came to his mind was to convince his followers that he could perform miracles and people could watch him live while he was doing it. Especially if someone came to him with a cancer disease, he promised them to drag out the cancer by himself and started his campaign. And when people came to his show, as you can see in this photo, he inserted his hand into the patient and pretended to drag something out of them and pull some meat from them. Even if there was meat, it wasn't human but chicken. And after he pulled it, he showed it to his followers, and his followers' reactions were of shock and amazement. After his first show, his plans worked and money began to pour in. And in this experiment, Jim Jones knew he could do to his followers whatever he wanted them to do. The same reason he became corrupt and overused his power until he became out of touch with reality. For example, whenever thought or spoke that was out of line, nobody would dare to challenge or give him opinions. And quite the contrary, his followers began to accept and clap for whatever he said and support him over time. This man's cult became popular, which led to more people joining him at the same time. A small proportion of people, after they joined and saw what he was teaching, began to realize that those who follow him are gullible, and Jim Jones himself is a lunatic. Whoever follows him is putting himself in danger. After they told the media what was happening in his church, people started to learn that what was happening in People's Temple was a scam. And Jim Jones was a leader of a dangerous cult. It started to surface in the news that Jim Jones scammed money from his followers, punished them, and made them a joke. When he learned this, he quickly migrated from the USA to Guyana in South America. However, he didn't go by himself. Instead, he took those who followed him dearly. When their foot stepped on this country, they settled in a countryside known as Jonestown. And surely their life was hell for the first time. For example, they worked for over 10 hours. Food and water were so limited because they settled far from the town and wanted for no one to locate them. Long story short, nobody could reach them. And when they finished the 10-hour work, they went to the hall, built for preaching, and had the obligation to learn. What he taught his teachings included that whoever wanted to leave this cult should be punished and be an example for the race. And even if someone tried to get out of the line he created, they would get severe punishment. For example, they could find themselves imprisoned in a coffin, or would get thrown in the well down for several days. It's true Jim Jones by now acted like a lunatic. However, one day he got sick and started to get medication, which made him even more of a lunatic. Let alone teaching them after work, he started to preach from dawn to dusk for days. One person who was escaped from this purgatory told the media that Jim Jones was teaching that American authorities were imprisoning African Americans to a bad prison, and sooner or later, they would come to this place and imprison you. As I told you earlier, the majority of Jim Jones's followers were African Americans, and when they heard this news, they got scared. Leo Ryan, a congressman in the United States, after he heard about the cruelty and after learning about Jim Jones's lunatic behavior, he was following his tail from afar. One time, when Leo went to South America for work and was about to return because he already knew where he was hiding and the people were American citizens and no one was checking up on them, he wanted to go and check on them on November 19th. 1978, Ryan and 18 people with him went to Jonestown to see what was actually happening there and to talk to Jim. When Leo arrived, he thought the people were suffering and in worse condition. But the truth was the opposite. All of them were wearing good clothes and they weren't hostile to outsiders. After Leo went to Jim Jones's office, he congratulated him that he was handling them very well and parted ways in a good manner. However, as I told earlier, Jim Jones was not mentally stable and thought Leo the congressman was sent from authorities to take his followers to prison, so he planned something. When Leo left Jonestown, he was heading to the airport, but Jim Jones formed a group and went after him. Killed Leo Ryan and 4 of his men. By the time he returned, preaching time was upon them, so he gathered the people and preached his famous speech. And this speech later got a nickname of Death Tape. The first thing he said was for you to live a better life. I did my best after saying that. All of them started clapping and shouting. Then he unveiled one container in the container. There was fluid in a violet color beside the container. There were 900 small cups. Now the day is November 19th, 1978, which means Leo Ryan the congressman died the last day, and now so many soldiers and policemen surrounded Jim Jones and they were waiting for higher officials. The signal to take measures for what Jim Jones did after closing to the camp. Soldiers were expecting to hear voices of the people that resided there. But what was happening was the opposite. The closer they got, the more silence settled. Confused and watching from afar, there was not a single soul around. And when they reached the camp, one soldier stumbled and fell. And looking at what he fell for, he knew it was a dead person. Shortly after, when all the soldiers saw below, there were dead people all over the place. What happened was, on November 18th, after his speech, he ordered his followers to drink the poisonous drink, which contained cyanide, even if they refused to drink the poison. Securities forced them to drink. Due to this, 900 people died within minutes. Jim Jones didn't drink the poison, rather, he shot himself, and now what you are about to see and hear was captured on November 19th.
Been kept locked up by the temple leaders to make it difficult for anyone to leave the country along the premises. Some had pillows beneath their heads. Some died alone, separated by no families until the end. Babies were fed the lethal potion with it. It's believed each lived about 5 minutes after swallowing a mixture of cyanide